Hello and welcome to Crafting a Revolution, the podcast. My name is Katie Freeman and I am your host. Every Wednesday and Friday, I'm bringing you interviews of female and non-binary makers of all kinds from all over the world. Today's guest is Delia Dante, who is a, large, really makes sculptures and things out of metal and enamel of all sizes. But she has really been exploring this work of making large enameled pieces and welding and TIG welding tin. So TIG welding copper. Really, really fun time getting to know more about Delia's background and her journey into making the art that she makes now, and then what she has on the horizon that she hopes to maybe get to explore a little bit more. Before we hop on into the interview with Delia, though, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to the patrons over on Patreon. So thank you so much, Lee at Lee Runyon, Annette 513 Woodworks, Katie Thompson, Women of Woodworking, Kevin, Lefty's Woodshop, Christy, Twisted Twine, Jeremy Speece, Sammy, Go Sammy Lee, Rachel, Moody Makes, Bonnie, Tool Mom Bonnie, toolmomstore.com, Laura Oakley Soap Company, Brandy, Studio Obey, Lee, The Rainbow Carver, Ellen, Little Bear Furniture, and Ethan Carter Designs. Thank you also very much for your continued ongoing support, helping me to produce 2 episodes a week every week. If you would like to get your name added to this list, you certainly can. Just head on over to patreon.com/crafting a revolution, and whatever tier you choose gets you added to the list that I read off and thank at the start of every episode. All right, with no further ado, here is Delia Dante. Well, since you have listened, you know the very first part is I ask my guests to introduce themselves. So would you do that for me?
Yes, I'm Delia Dante, and I am an official artist. I couldn't, for a long time, I couldn't actually call myself that. So it's kind of exciting to actually introduce myself as an artist. And I like that word maker. So I fell in love with enameling is what happened. And so I was kind of late in life coming to it. And that medium of glass enamel absolutely changed my life in an instant. I just couldn't do enough of it. And so it put me on a path of that is this great winding Y in the road path that it just has led me to where I am today. I own a beautiful gallery in downtown Boise, and I lovingly called it Delia Dante Gallery. Of course, why wouldn't you? If you're gonna have a gallery, you should definitely call it after me. But I started it as Fire Fusion Studio because I was a teacher for a long time. I taught junior high school art in public for 12 years. And so when I started the business, I really didn't, I still probably didn't have a ton of confidence in my ability to make money as an artist. So I went for the route of Fire Fusion Studio and more of a teaching facility, and just to sell some of my work there and take commission work. So I've done a lot of commission work, but the enameling it's just so beautiful. And I just honestly could not get enough. And because it was so beautiful, and flat panels and small artifacts were beautiful in themselves, I was like, well, gosh, why isn't anybody doing this stuff big? And it needs to be big. And I am a very small person and don't like to be missed, as one. So I'm like, I need to teach myself how to TIG weld so that I can weld copper, and then I can enamel these beautiful colors to the metal. And so that has changed my whole world in life. And I think I've taught over 3,000 people enameling in Boise now. And I probably am about 300 in welding. So that's a big mission of mine, is to, I was given a gift, and I'd like to share it with my community, and especially women, because I certainly wasn't encouraged to be a welder or an artist in Boise, Idaho. So now, look at me now. Oh my God, I'm 50 and I have my own gallery, and I get to share it with my 4-year-old daughter. So that's who I
Amazing.
am. That's what I like about. Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah,
have lovely women that work for me and get to give them jobs. So that's pretty cool.
it is. Yeah, so you are in Idaho, which is usually what happens is when I tell people I'm from Iowa, they go, "Oh, the
Yeah,
potato state." And I say, "No, no, 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 no. That's Idaho."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Idaho, and we get confused with you guys all the time. And I think they've
Mhm.
made T-shirts about it.
Yes.
Iowa, Idaho.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's how excited people were even about saying that they're from Idaho. I mean, nobody knew Idaho, and I've lived here for 44 years, I believe, or somewhere right in there. And you weren't exactly proud, it's like, yeah, it's not like you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
On my bio, it's always said I'm formerly from San Francisco. You're like, maybe that'll get me more sales.
Yeah. So, um, so okay, doing the math, if you're 50 and you lived in Idaho about 44 years, that means you pretty much grew up there.
Pretty much.
Pretty
Not a
much.
native, but pretty damn close.
Yeah. What was your childhood like? What were you interested in as a kid?
Well, I had an interesting childhood, I'd have to say. I mean, I did say I was from San Francisco. My mom was 16 and my non-bio dad was 18. And, we lived in a bus and for a bit of that. And, real hippies,
Mhm,
vegetarian hippies. A little bit later on the vegetarian, probably when I was 5 or 6. But very alternative lifestyle, not going to lie.
mhm,
Uh, you know, Haight Ashbury, my gay uncle, and his wonderful parties in the
mhm,
city. That was my lifestyle, and that drug scenario and parties and being like just a hippie kid.
mhm,
That was my upbringing. But what I remember most is that I really did like to make stuff. I was always wanting to make things.
mhm,
I liked working with my hands. Wasn't necessarily particularly good at anything. I just always had to be coloring or weaving. I liked, just different materials. I was always very curious about that sort of thing. And so, and dolls, of course, and dress up and
mhm,
girly stuff. So when my parents moved me to Idaho from this really different, Bay Area lifestyle of being
mhm,
free and seeing all this stuff, then moving to Idaho, it was kind of like a culture shock. It was
mhm.
like a fish out of water. We moved to Middleton, Idaho, which back then had one road through it and pig farmers. And it was such a shock to me. I was pretty I just wasn't in my element there.
Mhm.
But try to embrace things as a kid. But really, one of the first memories I have of going downtown of Capitol Boulevard in Boise was, a pickup truck with 2 dead deer hanging out the back of it with blood dripping down Capitol Boulevard. And we're vegetarians. I'm like,
Right.
Mom, really, this is
Yeah.
our new digs, really, and really feeling like I was not. This is not my peeps, right? This is
Right.
Yeah. So it definitely set me apart from the other kids, and I'm an only child and raised by adults. So
Mhm.
you're a little bit socially awkward as a kid.
Yep.
So I was pretty lonely. I was an extremely lonely child. And so I think making things and dreaming and, I was always fantasying and playing on my own. And so that was my lifestyle pretty much when I was growing up.
I would say I grew up. Um, my mom was a single parent, and it was just her and me until like my early teenage years. And so I totally vibe with the awkwardness. Like I could have conversations with adults. I could not have conversations with kids
Yeah.
my own age. And to be quite frank, I found most of the kids my own age like immature. Um, because
Yes.
I mean, besides
It's
being a
tough.
single parent, we were, pretty poor. And so like I had a lot of responsibilities. I was cooking at a young age and just like cleaning the whole house, just things that like maybe like my kids who are around that same age now, like they sure as heck don't have the same responsibilities that I had then.
No.
So it puts you in a different space. And I think similarly, I went inward then, which meant like creativity wise, like I always wanted to make with whatever was around me, just because that's like self-expression. And you can do that on your own. You don't have to have like other people there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's, you make up your what's going to make you feel good about who you are when you're by yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Totally true. I get that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a different time back then, as there was a lot more to do for the household and stuff, and cooking and cleaning. Yeah, it's a lot different. But that is true. I mean, as far as me, I wasn't ever encouraging any of that stuff, but I just remember really excited to make something to be able to give away or to have on the wall. It was a real sense of accomplishment. And everything I did, I always wanted to up it, like I could do that better, like than that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weaving, but what if I do different types of yarn and add some beads in that? I remember I mean, back then, granted, Boise was challenging for me, but I had went to a junior high that had wood shop, and they let us work with tools and melt plastic and use the saws, and it was so awesome. And they wanted to make a planner to hold a pot, like for whatever Mother's Day, and I'm like, well, can I put a mirror in it? Is there a way to, route out a back for a mirror? I'm 12. And so I remember those kind of experiences. The project is that, but I'd like to do it a little bit bigger. And so, and every material I got to work with clay, and that was the same thing. If I was going to make a chimney, I was going to make every single brick separate and then put it on. I wasn't going to just use the needle tool and just carve it out. I was going to make every single one. I was that kind of crazy 12.
Well, yeah, I was right there with you. I remember, gosh, it would have been 8th grade, and we had just moved to a new town, which FYI, middle of middle school is not when you move to a new town.
Bad timing.
And so I remember art class, and we did like a clay project, and it was coming up for Christmas. And again, because we didn't have a ton of money, like I grew up making, like my mom would make my presents, and I would make presents for her. And so everyone else was doing something super simple with clay. I made an entire Christmas village. I made like the store, like town hall, like houses. And it was like, they were super intricate, and like my mom still has that set, and I made sure you could, like, there was a hole in the bottom so we could put string of lights, you could put the light in each individual building, like all of that, which is just like, yeah, all the other kids are like, what are you doing? Like, I was like asking to stay after school so I could keep working on my project. Like, yeah.
Right. Absolutely. That was me as a kid. Yeah. It made no logical sense as to why we needed to work this hard.
Yeah.
But, you had an idea, and you just, it had to be this. Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. Yeah.
Hey makers. So today's podcast episode is sponsored in part by Alicia Van Osdal, who is the owner of Basil Blue Design Company. Alicia is a maker of all things, really. Her focus is on beautiful craftsmanship through woodworking, repurposing, refinishing, art, and sculpture. Her background includes 30 years of graphic design, logos, and branding. If you have an idea or concept and need a creative solution or graphic design, you can email Alicia directly at Alicia, and that is ALICIA at basilblue.com. Or you can visit her website at www.basilblue.com. And fun fact, Alicia actually designed the logo for Crafting Revolution. So that is an example of the impeccable work you can expect if that is something you are in the market for. So be sure to look up Alicia again at her website, basilblue.com. All right, let's get back into the action.
So that's the maker beginnings, of
Exactly.
being a fanatic about, doing it just so and bigger and yeah, but
What
it's
about,
exciting.
yeah, what about as you got older, like your teenage years, your early 20s? What were you doing, during those years?
Well, I always doing art classes in high school and never, again, never really encouraged. It wasn't like I stood out in any of the projects or anything. I didn't get up in the art show, let's say.
Yeah.
But I did, so I wasn't particularly promising in art, but I really liked theater. So I did a lot of plays in high school.
Mhm.
Obviously, I have a gift for gab. So I liked being on stage. I was scared to death of it too. So it really challenged me. And what primarily was so interesting that you asked that question, because I work in a very male dominated field. I'm a
Mhm.
welder, which is unlike somebody that's 5'1" that,
Yeah.
tries to be pretty all the time. Um, so my drama teacher, she was just so awe-inspiring. And she would come to work with her jeans on and all the tool belt, and she would be building these stage sets for
Yeah.
our plays. And I just never seen a woman that like that. And in that element, she was just, I mean, I was just like a deer caught in headlights. She was just,
Mhm.
wow. And she was good at it, and she was fiery and beautiful woman. And yeah, I just kept doing theater because of her, I think,
Mhm.
because I just was really inspired by her as a real strong female.
Did you get into the like set building and stuff like that?
Yeah, we did a lot of that painting. I mean, you were high school,
Yep.
did it
Yep.
all right.
Yep.
And so when I went to college, I continued theater minor, and I got an undergraduate degree in fine art.
Okay.
And that's where I kind of got into sculpture and more of clay, because the painting, they didn't really think I was that good at painting
Yeah.
so much. Not
Yeah.
such a good painter. And and I tried it all. I mean, I would definitely say throughout my undergrad and high school, I just tried every medium I could get my hands on. Wasn't particularly good at any of them, but I was curious. I definitely couldn't stop learning. It was
Mhm.
almost like I was trying to find the passion. Like I'd see my teachers, they'd be just so passionate about painting or
Mhm.
graphic arts. And I was like, I just can't see being that good at it and doing it all day and making a
Yep.
living.
Yeah.
I just wasn't, nothing really grabbed me.
Did you
So
do
I just kept
sculpture?
trying stuff.
Did you do 3D sculpture at all when you were at college? Like, did you have to take um, any of those
Um,
courses?
yeah, we did. I did mostly with pottery in
Okay.
undergrad, but what's funny is, so after Lewis and Clark College in Portland, that's where I did my undergrad. I was lost. Like there was no guidance. I think it was a real tragedy for these colleges that pretty much set up artists to be failures right out of the gate, because they had like no business class.
Nope.
I got no idea, no counseling, no help you get a job. I
Right.
mean, I was really like devastated after I just spent all this money to go to school, and it came out with like, I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go
Mhm.
lay on my mom's couch. Right. So my mom was really concerned. She's like, wow, she just went to 4 years of school and she's come back to, be on my dime. Yay. Not a golden moment for her, I'm sure. So I took an interest test at Boise State University. That's how bad it is when you like actually got to go take an interest test of what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And and it said first one was florist, which I was literally like, really? Can't be a florist. Like, I don't even know what if different flowers are.
I
Like,
know.
how did that come out of number one? So next number two was art teacher. So of course, I'm like, okay. But I did not have a very high opinion of teachers in general. I was like, yeah, they're not respected,
Mhm.
underpaid. worked too hard, and yeah, it just didn't interest me. But I did it anyway because it was number 2 on the list. So I was like, well, let's see if I can get off my mom's couch and
That's right.
maybe get a job. Because I was like doing framing art and stuff, and
Yep.
it was good, but it's retail. So yeah, I went and I killed it. I actually, I would say I got a 4.0 at Boise State, and um, this would be a life moment. Why in the road that I met 2 of the most incredible instructors, and they happen to be men, surprising. That that totally changed my life. But I credit John Kilmaster as turning me on to glass enameling. He didn't intend to do that,
Yeah.
but he did that. And then in welding, I took a sculpture class. As to the part of your question, I took a sculpture class, and we did the casting, which was horrible. Yes, and I mean, I had sprues and all that, and it could fail after 2 weeks of working on it. Super awesome. I like to be forgiven for my mistakes.
Yeah.
That is not forgiving art at all. With this, we had an oxyacetylene, and I probably was 24, so 23 at this time, and I was just like, whoa, you can melt metal, and this is cool. And yeah, and plasma cut and cut metal like butter and stuff, but he wouldn't let us use the plasma cutter. But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if I begged him, but he told me that I couldn't do something that I wanted to do, and it was certain kind of bends, and he was probably just saving me from myself, like that earlier conversation of, Delia, this is way too much. You got to tear it down. You can't do this. We have 3 projects. And you have 14 other credits, right? I'm like, no, I want this. I want to do this. But I took it as, Delia, you're a girl, and you're not, you're not good enough. You couldn't weld this, and you couldn't bend this, and it's not going to happen. And I was like, just tell me no, right? You telling me no. And so I spent 100 hours on this project, this welding project, for this one class. And I loved it, and I killed it. Not one pit in oxyacetylene steel welding. And it wasn't even, I think it was 18 gauge at the time, but and that's just how I am. And I brought that sucker in, and he was like, yep, she did it. And everybody knew it was my mission.
Yes.
So I could do those bends.
That's right.
That sculpture, and I still have it. I won't sell it. It's one of those things where I'd sell anything to make a living, but that one sculpture I won't sell. So that was a good question, because that really set the pace. But I didn't get back to enameling or sculpting until I was 32, I think.
Okay.
At that age. Yeah. I didn't sell pieces of work until 32.
You spent time teaching. Then
I got a job. What do you do?
Yeah.
Stability, a paycheck, summers off.
So fun fact, I don't know if they did this with you guys in junior high, but in junior high, we had to take those interest tests to see
oh, did you?
What we should go into. And my number 1 was florist as well. And I was like,
no!
Why?
They just don't know what to do with us. They're like, people are so weird. Maybe floral, are you arranging? I hate to say that, because now I see florists as like, holy moly, that stuff's right. But for me, it was like kind of, upsetting.
It was upsetting to me as well. I mean, I grew up with, my mom has a black thumb. There was no living thing in our house. It was like she could not keep anything alive. I had no desire or really interest in plants, and I still don't. But my wife does, right? So she's all into every year it's $500 worth of flowers that only last the summer. And I'm like, why? I don't understand it. I tell her when she retires, she should go become a florist, because I think she actually would really enjoy it, working around plants and stuff all the time. but
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm like, I don't. It just. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Kind of have to have a green thumb for that one, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, have a memory for all the different kind of flowers and what they mean and how they're. I mean, now they've taken it to a whole new level of
Yes.
art,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
They're blowing it out of the water with this floral thing, but I just,
Yep.
yeah, it still wouldn't
Exactly.
interest me to
Yeah.
spend a minute doing a floral arrangement. It's like buy it from Albertsons and just cut it real quick and stick
Yep.
it in the vase.
Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, and it's like $20. You know?
That's right.
I mean, you know, it's
Yeah.
about the fan and my attention for that, but
Yes.
that's so funny, florist. That's
Yes.
hysterical. Yeah.
So you okay? So you were teaching. I think you said 12 years. You taught.
Yeah. Yeah. I taught
Okay.
12 years junior high. That's
Did
great.
you? I'm sorry. Junior.
I know.
Junior high kids.
Junior high.
Yeah.
They are strange teachers.
Yes.
I looked like one of them when I started, so that helped, you
It
know.
helped. Yeah.
You know.
That was, I mean, that's what I ran away from. I was started college to become a industrial tech teacher, which
Oh,
are still like very badly needed.
totally.
But
Yeah.
I was like, most of my classes will be filled with teenage boys, and I will only be like 2 years older than them. I graduate from college.
Exactly.
And
Out.
I just foresee a lot of respect coming my way from those teenage boys. And I don't like teenagers. So I decided to,
Yeah, that's not a good mix. So.
yeah, I decided not to go into teaching. That lasted all of a semester.
Out.
I'm out, yes.
I'm out. This is not for me.
But were you teaching enameling and welding? Did you start that like while you were teaching at junior high, or that came later?
That came later. I mean, I think it gave me 5 different classes out of 6 to teach a day, and I did yearbook on top of that, so it was busy.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really, you know, I didn't dabble a whole lot in my own interests when I taught for a long time. I mean, I did the projects for them to get ready
Right.
And teach myself how to teach what they were going to learn,
Right.
and it was great. And I would probably I would retire in teaching art to junior high because I absolutely loved it. I loved that age group. I got to inspire young kids. It was extremely rewarding. Plus, I got to play with all these different materials. I taught photography. We had a great dark room. You know, I had computers. I mean, it was I really had like the best position in the district as an art teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
to leave that was tough. But to your question, I didn't what prompted me to just even get back into making art was that I hadn't finished my master's degree. I got a
Oh.
4.0 in all of the coursework, but I got a job right out of BSU and didn't get to finish my master's, my actual thesis. And it was massive, you know. I mean, I literally, I think they gave you 7 years, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
has it been that long already? Oh my God. And so I begged for a year extension. And I gave John Kilmaster a call and said, hey man, I kind of need to finish my degree and get paid more too, because that's how they
Mm-hmm.
pay in the district. And can I come out and get a refresh on that one project I did with you in enameling? He's like, yeah, come on out. So I went and I was like, yeah, John, I just kind of need to do this. And so I decided, through meeting him and seeing his studio, and got really inspired again by the enameling and the welding. And he had a little piece from another artist, and it was welded enamel. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta do this for my thesis. So I decided to teach 2 of my students, my advanced students, enameling, and I wrote a curriculum around teaching enameling to them. And then I did 20 pieces for the show, and it did take me, and then I wrote a 100-page book on it, and it was a year.
Yeah.
And I almost had nervous breakdown because you're the teacher, and I
Yep.
start fluttering because you're just too stressed out. And I couldn't get the enameling to work. I mean, I was terrible at it. It was just so hard. I didn't know anything about reading books. I went to like Boise Public Library, and this was before internet. Hate to tell
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Let's remember that, people. There were some, older
Yes.
ones.
Yes.
Yeah, 5 cents a copy, right? And I did
Yep.
every 1960s book on enameling, and I just tried it, and it was terrible. And then finally, I was like, okay, I don't know how I can teach this to my kids if I'm really this terrible. But they were in it to win it with me, and so my kids actually they got to exhibit with me at my very first show in
That's awesome.
2004, and they got offers on their work. And this is my first show, and so I'm 34, I believe, or 33, somewhere around there. And I, I was so proud to have them there. And I sold out the show. I sold out of the 20 pieces. I sold 16, I believe, 15 that night. I hadn't sold a piece of work in my entire life. So it encouraged me to start teaching this incredible art to my students because they love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a kiln in the school. I got the ventilation. It took forever, all of the bureaucracy around teaching something like this. Yeah, it totally changed the teaching. And then the welding started happening. And so it was awesome, I think, for my kids to see that, a teacher can, do something outside it. Yeah, right. Like, she's not just speaking the speak, man. She's actually going and doing it. Cause I'm always up there like, live your dream, kids. You can do it. Don't sell your soul to the man, and here I am not doing it, and it's been like 10 years. And I'm like, yeah, finally their teacher is not just garbling it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the biggest moment in my life. It was a huge Y in the road for me. My very first show. Yeah.
Amazing.
In 2004. So yeah, that was it. I mean, I sold work actually, I don't know, it's like $2,000 or something. And I was like, oh my God, you can make money at art? Is this a real thing? Can you really? People will pay money for your artwork. Yeah. So I go in the bathroom, my mom, and I'm like jumping up and down. I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually going to check. This is awesome. And I literally don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
So
I don't know that.
I didn't know that though. Yes. That's so professional. Really?
No, yeah. I think that every time I sell something that I make, like, to myself, if they only knew how little I actually knew about doing that thing that they had me make for them. I mean, and I've been doing it now, I'm in woodworking and stuff seriously for like 9 years now, but there's always something that you don't know how to do when it's like a custom project, and so it's like,
that's why you take them, right? So you can learn something. I'm like, exactly. I can't get paid to learn, man. What better job is this? Yeah, I mean, woodworking. Yeah, give it to you. I mean, I can do woodworking, man. I like my fingers,
Well, I mean, I do a different kind of woodworking. I do probably something that falls more in your vein of this. I do power carving. So mine's all sculptural and free form. I'm like you. I can't have anything rigid. I need something where if I chop something off, nobody else knows that was supposed to be there but me.
Like, yes. Perfect. It's just going to the new path,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I always say, hey, it helps inform me and to be a better artist, because I would have never seen that had I not just screwed it up.
That's right. That's when the quote unquote the wood was speaking to me and wanted something completely different.
That's what I say about enameling. I'm like, God, it just helps me so much. It looks like I really am good at this,
So, I mean, to be, really awesome. I've had, let me think. I may have only had one enameler on.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I don't know.
Emily Joyce. She does smaller work, but her stuff is like amazing. But I had her on, and that's really when I kind of learned about the process of enameling, and like it's almost a dying art. Like not a lot of people do it. But I know her talking about like just to get 10 of something, she's like, I have to do 50 of it just to get 10 to come out, the way that I want it to. And she's doing small scale.
That's a craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing large scale. Like you can't make 20 of something that's huge. So
No,
how are you
I
how are
wish.
you working through that? Is it just like time repetitive? Like
Well, I mean, I like big. I don't know. I think once again, I think it's probably just because I, I like to be noticed. And, and I like the craft to be noticed, the art, the enameling to be noticed, because I think it's missed, and I don't want to go away. And that's one of the reasons I teach, is so that there's more people that know about the medium, and that it will survive, and it
yeah,
will thrive, and that there is more than just cloisonne. There's a huge, there's just so much unexplored with the medium, which is surprising, right?
yeah.
And so
Hey makers, today's episode is sponsored in part by toolmomstore.com. At toolmomstore.com, you can find any and all tool-based merchandise for all genders, all sizes. They've got mugs, they've got shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. I have one of the shirts myself that has the hashtag woodworkher on it. And I also have a couple of the mugs that define what and who is a tool chick. So super excited with the merchandise that I have. I know that you will be satisfied as well. And also great discount for those of you who listen to the podcast. At checkout, if you enter the code MAKERMOM, you will get a 20% discount off any of the merchandise that you buy. So that's just toolmomstore.com. All right, let's head back into the action.
um yeah, I the welding, who would have figured me wanting to make enamels bigger and more three-dimensional would completely almost overwhelm the desire to enamel, because now I want to weld so much.
Yeah.
uh, and TIG welding copper is just so beautiful, and it's just, yeah. So I'm never going to get enough of that, and I do a lot of production work, but in for small scale jewelry. I mean, I have a brick and mortar, and I have to pay the bills, so I have employees, so I have sold myself to the I have hoarded myself out, so to speak, to to make money in Boise, Idaho, is not easy as an artist here. So we do a lot of small production work, but it's what it just
Yeah.
really gets me, is doing large scale commission work. And in fact, I just finished the biggest one of my life. That's why, unfortunately, I had to put off this
Yeah.
podcast for a while, because I kind of underestimated the time commitment to
Not
the
that
job.
anybody ever does that.
Oh my God, totally underestimated it. We just spent, between my girls and me, we put in just about 3,000 hours in creating this sculpture for this restaurant in downtown Boise. It's insanity.
Yes.
And yeah, and it was the hardest welding I've ever done, because it had to be installed in the restaurant, then taken apart and come back to the shop. And it's an enormous Day of the Dead tree
Oh,
with
amazing.
skeletons crawling all over it, that are enameled, and these are
Mhm.
30-inch skeletons. So 3D printing, my husband's amazing brainiac, and he figured out 3D printing for me. And I have plating tanks. So the way that I've done, being able to do production and do things over and over and large scale, is that I recycle my copper off of my welding through my plating tanks. I came across this technology maybe at a workshop, at an Enamel Society workshop, and changed my business, changed the realm of what was possible for me. Because to weld a bird, a realistic
Yeah.
bird, is, I can do it, but I don't have time, and you don't make any money doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can plate a model or clay or 3D printed item, then that's a game changer. Then I can burn it out, and then I can weld it. So that changed up the way that I could make more money and learn more and produce a variety of different things. So I'm not pigeon-toed to, I got to make this kind of art. I
Yeah.
do. I get to play a lot. So
That's
the plating has been
yeah,
huge.
that's awesome. I'm familiar with plating from my job puts me in manufacturing spaces. And so
Oh yeah,
I see all kinds of plating in those spaces.
I
Um,
bet.
And so that's like an awesome idea, like the 3D printing and being able to plate it. And because that's been my problem as far as like making money as, you know, I call myself more of an artist than a woodworker, because I can't get it to a production realm. So everything is one of a kind, right? And then you have to find the clientele to pay the price for that one of a kind.
Right.
And they don't grow on trees, unfortunately.
it.
Yes. And so I've played around where I've like, you know, carved something out of wood, and then I'll make a mold and then resin fill the mold, so I can be like reproducing those pieces over and over and over again without having to put as much work into it. But there's just, yeah, I'm right now, my fingers are crossed to get a wood CNC so that I can do some more like reproductive type of work.
Yeah, I mean, that is the hardest part. I mean, to, you know, to be faster and also to save money. I mean, honestly, I work in one of the most expensive mediums in the world, right? Besides bronze. I think we're number 2 on the cost ratio. And so how do you make a living doing it and be faster, but still keep your craft, your craftsmanship, your uniqueness? It's almost impossible, right? I mean, that's a tough thing to do, and to make money at it, and to find happiness in being a production artist, because production is great for paying the bills, but sometimes it's a tough. She's a tough little woman on your side. You don't want to, you know, you get pigeoned into this thing where you have to make things for people over and over again because it's what you know, and you make money at it. But it can be stifling in your creative process.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, there was a time period I only did like the art market circuit for a very limited amount of time. After about the 5th time of moving a huge ass piece of furniture, I'm like, no, not doing any more of that. Mm-hmm. But you know, I would make sure I had like small stuff too, so that people could still walk away with something that I touched. And so I would do, you know, wooden coasters, but I would dye them because that's my other thing. I like to dye wood different odd colors like bright pink and purple and stuff like that. So I would do that with coasters, and I don't know, it was probably like 8 coaster sets in. I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, I don't want to see another just plain square piece of wood that I have to sand still ever again. I just, and I haven't. Like, basically the last Christmas season that I did art shows, I was like, nope, I'm not making a single coaster ever again. It's just not happening.
I totally get it. I mean, I'm now considered the bird lady because I sell 500 birds a year. You know, it's like they're really cute, and I do love making them. But at some point, I'm like, you know, I kind of, you know, I've done it. Mm-hmm. You've done it. You're good at it. You're not going to get any better at it. You know, learned it.
Yep.
You know, so it's tricky. And then people are disappointed that you don't sell they don't sell it anymore, you know, and then they're like, well, I'm not coming back. She didn't sell those coasters anymore, you know? Yeah. You know, it's hard to switch, you know, gears. You are kind of put in a position where this is expected as an artist. Yeah, I like making all sorts of different things, and I'm never going to probably be satisfied with making the same thing ever. I like to challenge myself, and I like to learn. I think that's a big part about being an artist and being a successful artist, is that you are able to continue educating yourself and learning and growing and meeting new people, getting new ideas, inspiring. So I think, it would be a disservice if you did those coasters anymore. So that's good.
I mean, I think, exactly to your point. Like, I would be disappointed in myself if the work that I was creating today was the same work I was creating 9 years ago when I started. Like, or the same with any artist I look at, right? It's like, you want to see their work grow and move and continue. And because
Yeah.
life isn't stagnant, so why should the art be stagnant? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I always look at it too as like, oh, okay, if I'm on my deathbed, am I going to have some regrets? What are those regrets going to be? That I was bird lady for 20 years? Me? And, I mean, maybe, yeah, I would have a regret that I didn't, that I didn't do the big works,
Mm-hmm.
that I want to do, and that I didn't dream enough. The
Yeah.
dreaming is just so important. And when I don't get to dream and have time to just make art for art's sake and just, I mean, I love the time when I didn't have to worry about making money on the work that I was making, and that I could spend, $1,000 on some copper and
Right.
just go beat the hell out of it and enamel it and whatever I wanted to do with it, with no
Right.
expectation that it had to be gallery driven or,
Yeah.
or sellable. And that is where, I struggle with that a lot, especially with the retail,
Do
because
you give yourself that time now? Like,
that's I guess that's where I'm at now. I turned 50 and I just did the biggest piece of my career. And I'm like, now what do I want to do? And I guess that's where I'm at. I have this beautiful gallery that I opened a year ago that I've far surpassed my life goals as an artist.
mhm,
Like, I never even thought I would sell art, to now I'm really like, wow, I don't have any more big lofty goals.
mhm.
I've done it. I don't have any more to prove. That's really what it is. I
Yeah.
don't have to prove to anyone anymore.
Mhm.
I've already done it. I've already. So when you get to that level, you're like, okay, well, how do we want to make the rest of the next
Yeah.
half? How do you want that next half to be? Well, I have a 4-year-old daughter too, so that she comes in the mix a bit on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And so I think this is going to be a new era for me, where I might be changing it up a bit and giving
Mhm.
myself some time now to bring back the dreaming and the art that got me here, because
Mhm.
that art that I did when I didn't have to make money is really what got me to this place right now. It wasn't the birds. The
Yeah.
birds didn't pay for this.
Is that where, though, a little bit having staff, does some of like, does that give you some room? Can they do some of that production work and still allow you to maybe push the creative envelope a little bit?
Well, you would think, right? So I, there's always a double-edged sword with employees.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I do have a production assistant that has been with me for 5 years, and she's amazing. And we've had a journey together. We've had this incredible journey, and she didn't even know what enameling was, and
Mhm.
she kind of came. I mean, now she's like a rock star enamelist, and she's just so great. And she's leaving me for a man. She fell in love and gotta move away. Gotta try her new adventure. And
Uh-huh.
yeah. So and I've had a lot of employees. I've had a lot of turnover. It's hard to afford them. It's hard to keep them happy. And they're always
Mhm.
ladies that want to go back to school or have babies and fall in love. Whatever. I get
Mhm.
it. I'm always left behind, and then picking up the pieces when they leave me. And so it has been really tough, because I have to train them. It's not like anybody knows how to enamel or TIG weld,
Mhm.
for that matter. And so it caused me to, the management time managing people actually becomes 50 to 60% of your time in the back end, and the taxes and the payroll and I mean, it's just wow.
Mhm.
And so then you're doing your production, and then you have maybe 10% of your time to
Yeah.
do your thing. And then and then you get started on it, and then a month later you're still not finished with
Yep.
that piece. And you walk by it every day, and like, hey, I got to get to that.
Gotta
Yeah,
do that. Yep.
I still think I got that in my head that I'm going to
Yep.
finish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just so now I'm like, I just don't want it to be like that anymore. I really just don't want to keep passing up those wonderful pieces I'd like to finish. I have stacks of them. Like, I think they must think I'm a crazy person, because like, if you just in a day, you could probably finish half that stuff that's on the shelf. But it's like, but you got to be in the right
Yep.
mental place, and you've
Yep.
got to be inspired, and you have to have time, and you have to have people leave you alone.
Yes. That would be the key.
Leave me alone and not have a question,
Yes.
every 10 minutes. So it's I found it to be yeah, you just tugged and pulled everywhere when you have a brick and mortar and you have all these people that
Oh
need
yeah.
you. It's just lovely, and I've always felt so honored that I have had people want to work for me and are inspired by what I do, and have helped me get this far in my life, because honestly, it takes a village to raise an
Mhm.
artist.
Yes.
It's a lot of work by everybody, especially your family, your
Yes.
husband. And so, yeah, but now I'm like, yeah, okay, I know that route. I've learned that. I've learned
Mhm.
it. This is the path I've been on for a while now. And I'm like, well, maybe we need to think about how to be an artist in a different way,
Mhm.
so that I can live up to the name that's on this gallery. I actually have some new shit out there in that
Yeah.
gallery. not just not just lots of birds and pretty
Right.
Idaho pendant necklaces, which
Right.
sell very well.
I'm sure they do.
Very-
Well, I'm watching the time and we're like right at the end, and I would love to continue, but I have another interview right after you. So,
Oh, you're awesome. What a great interviewer you are. You have a gift for this. You got me talking and relaxed. I was all nervous, and that was really fun to hear your story too. It's really this is the most unique interview I've ever had. It was really fun.
good, good. I'll take that as a full on compliment.
Yeah, it was actually fun.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I
Well, of
do
course,
want to
talking
let,
about yourself, when is that not fun,
I know,
right?
I know, I know. Um, I do want to give you a chance to let people know though where they should find you and see your work and stuff.
I am online. We have a full, website with the shopping extravaganza for your enjoyment. You can get me by Fire Fusion Studio or Delia Dante Gallery.
Awesome.
Yeah, just look me up. We're on Instagram as well. I guess that's how you found me, which is cool.
Yes.
Girls do that for me because,
Yeah, yeah.
dog hair.
I get it. I get it.
I'm learning. They're teaching me.
There
It's a
you go.
slow, yeah. So yeah, please look me up. And if you're in Boise, come take a class, or come if you're ever traveling this way, which sure would be nice to meet you in person.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Teach me some wood stuff, because I have no game. So I know how to burn it and cut it on the
Hey,
saw.
that works too. You know, playing with fire is always fun. Always. Well, thank you for chatting with me today.
Thanks I'm so honored that you asked. Thank you so much.
All right. So again, that was Delia Dante, and I will include the links on how you can find her and follow along with all the amazing work she's creating in the show notes for today's episode. So where can you find those show notes? Well, you can find it in the description on your podcast app. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find it in the description box down below. Or you can head on over to freemanfurnishings.com/podcast, and you can find this week's episode along with all the previous episodes and all their links. So I certainly hope you go do that. Go follow along with Delia as well as all the other guests that have been on. You can also follow along with the podcast over on Instagram at Crafting a Revolution and find all the links to watch and listen and all the goodies over there. If you like today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, follow, like, give 5-star review, especially on iTunes and Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast. That is greatly appreciated and helps make it more likely for others to find the podcast as well. When I am not making podcast episodes, you can find me designing and making power carving furniture and other home decor over at freemanfurnishings.com and at Freeman Furnishings pretty much across all social media, active on a daily basis over on Instagram. So come on by at Freeman Furnishings and say hi. And I wanted to let you guys know, so it's Friday. And I forgot to mention it on Wednesday's episode, so hopefully I can be forgiven. But next week I am pretty much out all week for travel for work, and so there's not going to be any new episodes coming out. But this is episode 205. So if you're new, then you can get caught up in a week, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if you binge it. I don't think there's enough hours actually if you binge it, even if you stay up 24 hours. Anyways, plenty of episodes to choose from. If you've been listening for a long time, there's still plenty of episodes. Like, go back and listen to some of your favorite makers. And I will be back the week of the 25th with 2 brand new episodes. So just taking the 1 week off, a little bit of interference with some job travel. But you will all be in my thoughts, I promise. All right. So it's Friday. I hope you have a great weekend, everybody. And I will see you the week of the 25th. As always, let's go craft a revolution.
Solution for the toxic masculinities. Pollution is the constant evolution of the